Hello, BookTube. Well, it's Friday, and that means Friday Reads here on BookTube, where we all put aside the raw, unthinking momentum of our day and stop to think about our dreams. What have we accomplished this week? What have we read? What have we loved? What have we hated? How many thousands of videos have we made? And what have we got coming up? What are our dreams coming up? Love Friday Reads. I don't always make a Friday Reads video, but I love watching them. And I have one for you today. I have a list of covers that I want to show you for books that are on my immediate horizon. Now that horizon is always a wavering target. I get books in the mail, and I also got a stack of books at the Brattle Bookshop today, some of which will no doubt demand immediate attention tonight and this weekend. But I'm poised on the weekend. I've got a huge amount of work to do. But I'm going to do a huge amount of reading too. So I wanted to show you some of the things that are coming right up for me. The first one is by Chris Baker. And I should probably warn you, I don't have a stack of the print books here, although I just did rearrange my my new and forthcoming shelf, so it looks nice and pretty. But I have just the images here, so I didn't have another pile of books. There's already two piles of books over here. But this first one, I should warn you, is pricey. I'm hoping that it's brilliant, but it's not cheap. This is by Chris Baker, and it's called What Happened to the Battleship? 1945 to the present, with a painting on the cover there. And it's just a military and industrial survey of how the battleship has changed in the last 100 years. Is it a liability in the present day? Has it always been a liability? What has it tipped the balance of power? All that. I have a sweet tooth for this sort of thing, so I am looking forward to the book really pleasing me, I'm hoping. This next one, it'll please me. I read it when it first came out. I don't typically like this sort of thing. Not much. I think of them as sort of harmless. And I don't know, if I were a book, maybe this is just the combative South Boston Irish Catholic, if I were a book, someone calling me harmless would be just about the worst thing they could do. It's basically the equivalent of the American Deep South thing, bless your heart. And that's what I found this to be. This is a new and expanded edition of a book you probably read in school. It's been on school curricula. There's a copy in every used bookstore in the world. This is by Michael Wood, and it's called In Search of the Dark Ages, A History of the Origins of Britain. This is a new version of this book. I don't know how it's been expanded. I'd be willing to bet a Boston cream pie that Michael Wood does not keep up with the research. He does not read journals. I'd be willing to bet that. So I don't know what the expansions and updates will be here, but I'll give it a try. I have been dealing with this book for the whole of its existence on Earth, so I will keep it up. Then this next one is an example of something unsavory and upsetting. The first book, What Happened to the Battleship, I'm looking forward to that. Search of the Middle Ages, Search of the Dark Ages, that sort of thing. Books like that tend not to tell me anything I don't already know, and they tend not to tell me the things I do know in ways that I've never seen before, so it's hard for me to muster enthusiasm. But when it comes to not mustering enthusiasm, there's a whole other strain of books, and that's things that I know are going to soil and infuriate me. I still have to read them. I've set this remit for myself. New releases of a major kind in the genres I read. General nonfiction is one of those genres. I'll never get to all of them, but I get to as many of them as I have, as many of them as I can get to. This is going to be an infuriating book. This is by Ken Auletta, a famous freelance writer, and this is called Hollywood Ending, Harvey Weinstein and the Culture of Silence. And this will detail some of what's known from public reporting of the horrendous sex crimes of Harvey Weinstein, but as you can tell from the subtitle, it will also mostly deal with the fact that everyone in Hollywood knew what was going on. And to preserve their own careers, they didn't say anything. And yet they can get preachy and uppity when they're accepting awards at award ceremonies. They all knew. And they did nothing about it. They knew that people were being victimized, that lives were being shattered like porcelain. And they didn't care as long as they kept their own careers. So that's going to be pretty infuriating. And it's not just that they knew. It's that Harvey Weinstein, as was said years ago when his whole story broke, is the tip of the iceberg. It isn't just directors who were doing this. Most of your famous stars, most of your favorite male stars, were engaged in what boils down to not just a culture of silence, but a culture of predation. I don't know how much of that will be in this book. Ken Auletta usually doesn't disappoint me, so we will see. Then I'm going to need some relief from that. We'll go to a romance novel, and this is a contemporary romance novel. This is by Serena Bowen, and it is Love Lessons, with my boy Eric on the cover there. And this is about a brutish but heart of gold professional hockey player who needs an image update. He needs a PR rescue. And I think the plot has the person coming to his PR rescue is a perky young thing, and they fall in love. We shall see. It's a hockey novel that always makes me smile. when you mix romance with hockey, that always makes me smile because it takes a harder toll on its members than virtually any sport in the world. For every one Sidney Crosby who starts out gorgeous, even better looking than Eric, and continues to stay gorgeous throughout, for every one of him, you have people that you meet them at the age of 45 and they don't even look human. They look like Quasimodo. So you have to suspend your disbelief in a book like this. I'm just hoping that it's a lark, that it's nice and fun. Then this next one is by Anthony Marra, the author of Constellation of Vital Phenomenon. This is Mercury Pictures Presents. Haven't got to this thing yet. Still need to get to the finished copy. So this weekend maybe will be the time to do it. I plan on getting a lot of these things done this weekend. Then this next one, we'll do another romance novel. This is an author I really like, and this is a series that I really like. This is the Off the Grid series by Barbara Freethy. And this is Perfect Target. And he's got a zipped-up leather jacket. His face is every bit as good a real estate as Eric's, but we're not seeing any of the famous body tattoos or anything like that. And this is the story of... the plot seems to be bracketed by explosions. There's the handsome, rugged agent here, the FBI agent. The plot starts with his memories of an explosion on a super yacht, where he saves someone, but their story is iffy. What went on, why it happened, what they saw, and he doesn't think much of it until there's another explosion years later, and that brings it back to mind and makes him wonder if they're connected. I love this author's work. As far as police procedural, sort of gritty, contemporary romance novels go, you'd want to go to Sarah at the Bookish Knitter for the final word on who's great and who's not. I don't know what she thinks of this author. I'm still a relative neophyte in mystery genres that don't involve the Regency period, but I've read every book in this series, and they are just wonderful escapist stuff. Then this next one will go right back to the kind of book that I know I'm going to hate. I know it's going to infuriate me. But I'm going to read it anyway. This is Dick Morris's book, The Return, Trump's Big 2024 Comeback. This will be outdated by the time it hits the bookstores. I think this comes out in maybe August or September or something like that, and it'll be outdated by then. But it's extremely relevant now, especially today, since Trump recently, I think just today or yesterday, made his heaviest hint yet that he is going to officially announce his 2024 presidential campaign. The whole thing is a farce from beginning to end. How do you run for president if you don't believe in votes? If everyone knows ahead of time that there's one candidate running who's going to claim he wins no matter what, and who's not going to accept the results, and who's going to get people killed because of that, there's a fanatical base that is basically telling all the other candidates, if you claim you beat Donald, they all refer to him by first name, they pray to him. They pray to him. If you know already that there's hundreds of thousands of well-armed people out there who are going to say, you're not claiming that you beat Donald, are you? Because we know where you live. We know where your kids go to school. Whatever is going to happen in 2024, I think I know exactly what's going to happen in 2024. Whatever is going to happen in 2024, Donald Trump is not running for president in 2024. Big comeback? Sure, that's nice and ambivalent. The return? Sure, that's nice and ambivalent. He's not running for president. When you run for president, you go out and you hit the hustings, you look to convert votes, you look to win over an audience, and you trust the results. You agree to lose if the votes run against you. Donald Trump isn't going to do any of that in the run-up to 2024. The presidency is not the job he wants. And it's not the job he's going to get. I will read this anyway. It will fill me with foreboding. It will fill me with impotent rage. But your rage need not be impotent. You could get your paperwork in order and leave this country. while you still have a chance. You could do that, and you should. But but I'm going to read this anyway. We will see. Then this next one, if you're at your one end of the ideological spectrum, you got a ton of extremists who are trying to make inroads into the normal world where we all live. Then there's another end to the ideological spectrum that's just as extremist. It's just as weird, just as many zealots, and it also is trying to make inroads into where we live. And we're embattled in the middle, where you're not crazy at all, where you like people. And you do things, and if they don't harm, if someone else is doing something that doesn't harm you, let them do it. This is a book by Noah Rothman. This is called The Rise of the New Puritans, Fighting Back Against the Progressive War on Fun. Now, some of this, of the title and the subtitle there, is just flag-waving to incite readers, to attract attention. Some of it, in other words, is book design. But there is an extremist element out there of what they're referred to online as woke scolds. But they're far more than scolds. They like nothing better than to get you fired, get your class shut down, get your institution to drum you out, whether you have tenure or not, make sure that you never work anywhere again in your chosen field. It's not just a war on fun. It's a war on dissent. The new Puritans here, the all-knowing among us, the blue check marks, the shaved side of the head, they don't just hate fun. They hate dissent. And they're just as bad as the admittedly more violent crowd on the other end of the spectrum. But it's no good you telling me, those of you who might be so inclined, that they can't be as bad because they didn't sack the capital of the United States. There's no good you doing that. They want to. And the fact that they didn't sack the capital doesn't mean that they aren't a danger to your livelihood and to your family, your family's livelihood. I mean, you get a bunch of people on camera who assault the U.S. Capitol and attack police officers who are trying to defend it. Okay, that's really, really bad for the Republic. You get 20 woke scolds who decide that you should lose the job you've had for 20 years unless you do exactly what they tell you. Maybe death threats to your kids. Is that quantitatively all that much better? I say a plague on both their houses, whether or not one has tried to overthrow the United States government. One has tried to overthrow the United States government. The other is trying to institute the teaching of theocratic fantasy in schools. So, one way or the other, you can see already this is going to irritate me almost as much as the pro-Trump crap that is among the books that are on my TBR for Friday. So there's a little bit of self-punishment involved. This next one will be infuriating, but it won't be quite so bad because the author is aware of what he's writing about. This is by Mark Leibowitz, and this is Thank You for Your Servitude. And this is about the way the cult of Donald Trump reshaped Washington, D.C. into one king and a gigantic crowd of bootlickers. Almost literally. If Donald Trump knew for sure that no cameras were anywhere around, he probably would require that the people who fly down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring actually did literally kiss his boot. Probably he would insist on that. I'm just saying, why don't you do that? Why don't you? I mean, plenty of people are saying that you should. Kneel down on the ground, Mitch McConnell. Kneel down on the ground and kiss my foot. He probably would literally do that, but he certainly does the equivalent. Avowed enemies of his. That's what this whole book is about. It's about a whole crowd of people who saw him quite literally for what he is and flew down to kiss the ring anyway. To do obeisance. Never a crossword in public. Never a hint of criticism ever again after that moment. Whatever crazy thing he does, I'm on board. Even in a moment of preserving your own life, Lindsey Graham actually got on the floor of the Senate and said, we're done. After Donald Trump incited a long-planned and carefully orchestrated violent insurrection to overthrow the government and install himself illegally in power for the rest of his life. After he did that, Lindsey Graham went on the floor of the Senate and said, I'm done. It wasn't 2 days later that he was forced to change his tune. No one quite knows why this is. No one quite knows why this is happening. There's been speculation for years about, does he have something on these people? Is there compromise of some kind or other that he's threatening them with? I myself think the answer is simpler than that and far more disturbing, which is Donald Trump revealed a deep, thirst to be slaves, a thirst that runs through 170 million Americans, a deep thirst to be a serf in an autocracy, provided that uppity in-law of yours hates it. As long as you're owning them, you're willing to give up your liberty to do it and kowtow to a racist, sexist, fascist, lying moron. I think it's that. I think a lot of these people, that's what they have. They just can't, they don't have the spine to resist this kind of mob intimidation. But maybe Mark Leibowitz will have a whole bunch of new things to tell me about it. At least it won't infuriate me, at least directly. By proxy it will, but not directly. This next one we'll finish up with yet more infuriation. This weekend will be hard on my iliac muscle, but I'm going to read it anyway. You see this kid on news commentary channels all the time. His name is Tim Miller. He's been a sort of a political operative for a whole bunch of different horrible candidates, Republican candidates. And he has a book, Why We Did It. Because he has seen the light. He has had his road to Damascus moment, and suddenly he is railing against the people who said, yeah, these people that we're working for are awful, but we'll hold our noses and work for them anyway. He's now written a book trying to explain why that happened, why it happened to him, a young gay man, for instance, working for a whole bunch of avowedly homophobic candidates, and why it happened to a whole bunch of his friends, including some who are still in that spell and have not left it. I don't know. Tim Miller seems like a very smart guy to me. I'm certainly an articulate guy. I don't know how far I will go with him here. I'm hoping that this book has a large amount of accountability. I'm hoping that at no point does he say, well, I was under a spell, I wasn't myself, now I am. He did everything that he did with his eyes wide open, and I'm hoping that that is in here. If it is, and it's frankly and honestly done, probably this will be a valuable book, but it will infuriate me all the same. So there are quite a few books on this list that are going to infuriate me. It's the price you pay for TBRs when you've staked out the remit that I have. I know perfectly well that I could lessen that remit. I could do a lot. I'm going to do a lot of rereading. I bought a lot of books to Prattle today. But we all set the parameters of our reading, right? We all do that. And this is the parameter that I've set for myself. The 15 or 16 genres that I read, the new releases in those genres in the American book market every year. That feels good to me, even when the roll of the dice is bringing up one book after another that's going to set me blood boiling. So that's my TBR for this Friday Reads. And as usual with Friday Reads, I want to know what's on your horizon. What did you finish? Was this a good reading week for you? This was a brilliant reading week for me. The last 5 weeks have been amazing for me, reading-wise. But I'd love to know about you. How was your reading week? What is on your Friday Reads? If you're a booktuber if you're a commentator who doesn't make videos, this is the only way I'm going to know. Feel free to either leave a comment here or email me with pictures of your latest book acquisitions, pictures of your dogs, even pictures of your cats. Friday Reads is when we pause from the circus, stop and talk about our bookish plans. And all these things are on my plan, either for this weekend or for early next week. God help me. I'll be very, very angry by the time it's over. Unfortunately, I have plenty of palate cleanser books to make up for it. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.